My name is Jess. I am 21 years old. If you looked at my life from the outside, it might seem interesting, maybe even glamorous. But the truth is very different from what people see. I live two completely separate lives, and keeping them apart takes everything I have. During the day, I am a university student. I sit in lecture halls, I take notes, I study late into the evening. My goal is to become a nurse one day. I want to work in hospitals to sit beside people who are suffering and make them feel less alone. That dream keeps me going when everything else feels impossible. But when my classes end, a different version of me steps forward. At night, I work as a model. Nobody from my university knows this. I keep it hidden carefully. I do this work not because I love it, but because I have no other option. My family cannot support me. My rent, my food, my textbooks, everything comes from my own pocket. Modeling pays enough to cover those things. But the cost is not just money. The cost is sleep and peace and the constant exhaustion of being two different people at once. Tonight I am at a party hosted by a well-known fashion brand. The room is enormous and full of light. Beautiful people in expensive clothes stand in clusters, laughing loudly, talking about things I cannot relate to. I am wearing a dress that does not belong to me. My makeup is flawless. My hair is styled perfectly. I look like I belong here. But I do not feel like I belong here. While the people around me discuss their holidays in Europe and their new cars, I am quietly calculating whether I can afford heating this month. The party is not an event for me. It is a shift. I am here to be seen, to look a certain way, and then to go home and study until I fall asleep at my desk. This is my life, and I have learned to survive it. The music was loud the night everything changed. Glasses clinked. Laughter floated through the air. I stood near the edge of the room, doing my best to look relaxed when I was anything, but that was when I noticed him. His name was Tim. He was 57 years old, with silver hair and a dark, perfectly fitted suit. He was one of the most powerful men in the fashion industry, the kind of man that entire rooms shifted around. The way water shifts around a stone dropped into it, he was not smiling. His expression was flat and unreadable. Several models had gathered near him, laughing a little too loudly, tilting their heads at certain angles. They wanted his attention. He did not give it to them. His eyes crossed the room and landed on me. He watched me for a long time without moving. Not the way people look at you when they find you attractive. The way people look at something they're deciding whether to purchase. Then he began walking toward me, slowly, every step deliberate. The models he passed turned to stare, first at him, then at me. Their expressions shifted into something that looked like envy. He stopped directly in front of me. He was tall. I had to look up to meet his eyes. His cologne was strong and expensive. "You are Jess," he said, not a question. I nodded. My voice had disappeared somewhere. "I will be straightforward," he continued. "You have two options. The first, you agree to date me. If you do, your life changes completely. New apartment, new car, every door in this industry opens for you. The second option, you say no. And I make certain you never work as a model in this city again." I could not breathe. Around me, people laughed and talked and drank. Nobody noticed that a man had just handed me an ultimatum disguised as a choice. The models watching us from across the room had no idea what he had said. They only saw him choosing me, and they looked at me like I had won something. I stood completely still. I did not know what winning looked like in this situation. I did not know what losing looked like either. I only knew that I was frightened and that my feet could not seem to move. I went home that night to my small, cold apartment. The heating had been unreliable for weeks. I sat on my bed and looked at the bare walls and secondhand furniture and thought about his words for hours. The choice he offered was not really a choice. It was a trap with two different doors. If I said yes, I would have money, security, and a career. But I would be agreeing to something I did not fully understand with a man who had threatened me in the same breath that he complimented me. If I said no, I would lose my income. I would lose my ability to pay rent. I would lose the thin, fragile stability I had spent 2 years building. I did not sleep. By morning, I had made my decision, not because it felt right, but because I felt I had no other option. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and called his number. "I will do it," I said quietly. "I will date you." He did not sound surprised. He simply said, "Good. A car will be there in 1 hour." The weeks that followed felt like stepping into a film. He took me to restaurants I had only seen in photographs. He bought me dresses that cost more than my monthly rent. He gave me a gold bracelet in a small blue box, placing it on my wrist himself with a quiet smile. When my old university laptop finally gave up, a brand new one appeared at my door the next morning without a single word from me. On the surface, he was attentive and generous. He opened doors. He pulled out chairs. He asked about my nursing studies and listened when I spoke. There were moments when I genuinely enjoyed his company, when I laughed at something he said and forgot briefly how this had all begun. But underneath the dinners and the gifts, I always felt something I could not name, a heaviness. The sense that I was not a person he was getting to know, but an object he was gradually acquiring. He watched me constantly, my hands, my face, my mouth when I spoke, with a patience that felt less like affection and more like waiting. I told myself I was imagining it. One rainy evening, we were sitting together in his car on a quiet street. The city lights blurred through the wet windows. The silence between us felt thick and full of something unspoken. He turned toward me. He moved closer. He put his hand gently against my face, and then he kissed me. It was soft, slow. For a moment I stopped thinking entirely. But then something surfaced in me, a truth I had been carrying, something I needed to say before anything went further. I pulled back gently. "Tim," I said, barely above a whisper, "there is something I have to tell you." He waited. His expression was still. "I have never been with a man before. I am a virgin." Silence. Only rain against the windows and my own heartbeat. I braced myself for something, embarrassment, laughter, irritation, but what came instead was a wide, genuine smile. His whole face changed. He looked almost delighted. "Jess," he said softly, "that makes you even more special." He kissed me again, this time with more certainty, more warmth. He held me close and whispered that he would take care of me, that I was rare, that he would protect me. In that dark car with the rain falling outside, I believed him completely. He took me to the finest hotel in the city that night. Our suite was larger than my entire apartment building. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over a carpet of city lights. White roses and tall lilac filled the room with sweetness. Champagne waited in a silver bucket. He was different that night, warmer. He asked about my dreams, my future, the reasons I wanted to become a nurse. He listened to every word carefully. His eyes were kind in a way I had not seen before. I forgot about the ultimatum. I forgot about the transaction underneath it all. I only saw a man who seemed to genuinely want to know me. He was patient and gentle. He whispered that I was beautiful, that he cared for me. I believed it was the beginning of something real. Later, I lay in the wide, soft bed with my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. All my worries, the rent, the cold apartment, the loneliness, felt impossibly far away. I closed my eyes and felt, for the first time in a very long time, completely safe. I thought my new life was beginning. I woke up alone. Morning light filled the room, golden and bright. For one warm second, I smiled, remembering the night before. Then I turned and found his side of the bed cold and empty. He was standing at the window, already fully dressed in his dark suit, scrolling through his phone. His back was to me. He looked like a man at the office, not a man who had held me through the night. "Tim," I said. My voice came out small. He turned slowly, and I saw it immediately. His eyes were different. Whatever warmth had been there the night before was completely gone. He looked at me the way you look at someone you have already stopped thinking about. "That trust," he said. His voice was flat. "The driver is downstairs." He walked to the bedside table and placed something on it. A stack of money. The sound it made when it touched the surface was quiet, but it echoed through me like something breaking. And in that single moment, I understood everything. The flowers, the champagne, the gentle words, the patience, all of it had been preparation. Last night had not been the beginning of something. It had been the conclusion of a transaction. He had wanted something specific, and he had taken the most careful, expensive route to get it. Now the deal was complete. The money on the table was my payment. I felt heat rise to my face. Shame, deep and burning. He had already turned back to his phone. I dressed quickly, my hands trembling. I did not touch the money. I walked to the door. I did not look back. For 3 days I stayed in my room. I did not eat. I barely moved. I stared at the red dress folded over the chair in the corner, his dress, the one he had chosen, and I felt nothing but hollow. On the 4th day, something shifted. I walked to my bathroom mirror and looked at myself. My eyes were swollen and red. I looked exhausted. But behind everything, something else was still there. Something small and stubborn, like a flame that refuses to go out no matter how much rain falls on it. He had wanted me to be quiet. He had expected me to take the money, feel the shame, and disappear. I decided I would not disappear. I opened my laptop and began to write. I wrote everything: the party, the ultimatum, the expensive evenings, and the careful attention, the hotel suite, and the cold, emotionless morning after. I wrote about the money left on the table like I was something being paid off. I did not use his name, but people who knew the industry understood immediately who I meant. The story spread quickly. Other women came forward. Women who had stayed silent for years because they were frightened, because they depended on his approval to work. They were not frightened anymore. One voice had given them permission to use their own. Tim lost his position. His name became associated with exactly what he was. He called me many times. I never answered. I had nothing left to say to him. My modeling career ended. The job offers stopped completely. Some people called me brave. Others said I had made trouble for myself. I did not feel sad about it. The money he had left on the table, I took it in the end. Not for myself, exactly. I used every last amount of it to pay my university fees. I turned what he meant as a disposal into the foundation of the future he never thought I deserved. Now I am a full-time nursing student. My apartment is still small. I still watch my spending carefully. But when I walk to my lectures in the morning, I walk with my head up. I do not need expensive clothes or a powerful man's approval to feel like I matter. I have my books, my purpose, and the knowledge that I looked at something very difficult and chose myself anyway. My life is mine now, fully and completely mine. And that is worth more than anything he ever put on a table.